this could get very complicated. My otaku timeline comes in two parts because I kind of consider it that whole snowball effect, and one of my snowballs melted. When I was a kid, I grew up on Nick Jr. And so when I was watching Nick Jr., I was watching things that I didn't realize were imported cartoons. So they were from all kinds of different countries. David the Gnome was like from France, and there were 3 animes on Nick Jr. And so I watched them without even knowing they were anime. And I really liked them. One of my favorite shows on Nick Jr. when I was a kid was this one about a koala bear. Don't remember what it was about. I remember what it looked like, but I don't remember its name. I'd have to look it up. MyAnimeList.net is a wonderful place. Here's the name. Then after I moved on from Nick Jr., I moved on to Power Rangers like most kids my age did. Actually, most kids most ages ended up doing that. As most of you should know, Power Rangers is based on Super Sentai, which they even used footage from, and which is a Japanese television show about people fighting monsters. Most of the images you see, unless you see the actual American actors back then, I'm not sure so much now. Actually, I think it's over now. Super Sentai is not, but Power Rangers is. So again, I moved on from one Japanese thing to the next, and then I moved on to what most teenage boys moved on to, which apparently I thought I was. Pokemon. This was actually the very first Pokemon game I ever got, and it's my little pride and joy. I kind of want to get it a fireproof box just for itself. Then my cousin Adam told me about the television show, so I checked out the television show. Then that led to Digimon, and that led to Monster Rancher, and that led to, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, by this point, I was like, okay, I do like some anime, but I'm not an anime fan. I'm not an otaku, and my friend Nikki saw the perfect opportunity. Her 16th birthday came along, and I went to her house on her 16th birthday and spent the night. Then our friend Shayna met us the very next day, and we had her birthday party. Well, that day, the day of her birthday party, I ended up watching Endless Waltz 3 times in one day. That's right, 3. 3. Count them. 1, 2, 3. Endless Waltz. Over 2 hours long. 180 minutes. It says right there. Actually, okay, that's the movie version. The OVA version, I think, is very short compared to this. But still, I immediately fell in love with Gundam Wing. And little did I know, I actually saw a little bit of Gundam Wing a few years before and thought it was boring. But that is normal for me. I normally find anything that I end up loving to death boring at first. We need to move on. Then we also watched Yu Yu Hakusho. Yu Yu Hakusho I was okay with. I wasn't too into until a little bit later, but I did get into Yu Yu Hakusho pretty heavily. But it was Inuyasha and Gundam Wing that got me that snowball to not just get onto the top of the hill, but start rolling down because it started going fast. That was one steep hill. I taped Inuyasha one night and watched it the next day after school, and, well, let's just say it was all about Miroku, and my favorite character is Miroku. We'll just put it that way. After that, I finally gave in and said, okay, I'm an otaku, and started watching things like crazy. But eventually, I got bored of my short series because all of the short series I saw multiple times, like Gundam Wing, I was finally bored of that. I was getting really tired of Toonami not airing Yu Yu Hakusho anymore. I was getting tired of Adult Swim not having new episodes of Inuyasha. I was also really tired of the fact that Sango and Miroku never hooked up until a lot later. So needless to say, I just kind of grew bored. And so for Lent one year, I gave up anime and never went back. Until the summer before my sophomore year of college, that is. My friend Nikki came over and she said, I'm so tired of my really stupid edited OVA version of Endless Waltz. Can we watch a really kick-ass movie version? So I said, okay, and we watched it, and that made me go, oh, Gundam Wing, how I used to love you. So I ended up rewatching the entirety of Gundam Wing, and then Sarah started showing interest, which she'll tell you later, started showing interest in the idea of manga, and she asked me, what's a good manga to read? And I said, you know what, in high school I really liked Inuyasha, but I didn't read the manga, I watched the anime. At that time I started going, And so I dug out all of my old tapes and started rewatching Inuyasha. And then I also found out that Moroku and Sango finally hooked up, so I scoured the internet to find that episode, and that episode, yep, I was hooked again. And then I went to Anime Detour, and the rest is kind of history. That is kind of how it led up to this moment right here. I took a break, that snowball melted in the heat of summer, then the next winter came along, and now it's a big, huge snowball, and I'm like curled up in the middle of it with my anime and manga and video games and my YouTube, and I'm one happy YouTuber. I am one happy otaku. Sarah, I'll see you tomorrow.